Mommy, okay? That's the right. This is so good.
All right, I think I got it working. It took a little while. My computer really didn't want to cooperate with me. But I don't know if it's Logan and Dylan that's still on.
Hot, hot, hot. I Mommy, remember? One more.
Angel, hello, welcome. From Argentina, nice. It's probably warm down there compared to where I'm at. We're actually expecting about 10 inches of snow tomorrow for the next 3 days. Actually, thank you for joining. I actually did this for the past 6 hours. I was live streaming and then try to load something to see if it would work. And of course, it completely caused some sort of complication and had to shut it down. But welcome. I actually live in Pennsylvania, in the United States. So if you're looking at the map of Pennsylvania, like directly in the center, right in the middle.
Ready?
Dylan, welcome back. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but my computer didn't want to cooperate with me. The center of Argentina, nice. Yeah, I would love to visit Argentina one day. But in regards to Bitcoin, to your question, let's go ahead and take a look at and see exactly what it's doing. It actually broke over the 1200 range that it had a hard time breaking. Yeah, it's 1241 now. So I mean, it's only $120 off its all-time high from Coinbase.com. So the the ETF decision had a minor hiccup. People are stepping in and buying it. Yeah, actually, I was able to get in Bitcoin at 1,000 at that crash that it had, and then I wanted to get out at 1,200, but GDAX or Coinbase was down, wouldn't allow me to log in, so I ended up selling at 1,100. But then I just ended up buying Ether and selling that twice. So is the Bitcoin community big in Argentina? I don't know if the government was cracking down on heavily regulating it. So are any of you guys buying or trading cryptocurrency currently or holding?
Told ya, baby. Let's try. Why not? What is it?
So that's good that there is a Bitcoin Foundation. So that would imply to me that the government isn't heavily cracking down on Bitcoin and really trying to suppress it and choke it out of existence. Yeah, I don't blame them. I think with a lot of countries, they will definitely devalue their currency. Unfortunately, that's what's happening at a lot of places. I mean, even the U.S. dollar right now, that's not worth what it was worth. So I highly believe that Bitcoin is going to be the future, as well as other cryptocurrencies too. Dash, Monero, Ethereum. I think aside from those four, all the other ones are pump and dumps and shit coins, as some people might call them. So for the 3 new members that have joined this live chat, what happened earlier was I had about 270 ethers that I transferred from Gemini to Coinbase because Coinbase had a higher price that they were selling at. And then I went ahead and sold those. I bought it at 18.48, and then I sold at an average price of 21.40 was the average price that I sold at. And then today I bought about 418 at 21.80, and then basically an hour later, I sold it at 22.50. I wish I would have held on just a little longer because the price did go up to 24.25. But I just didn't really like what I was seeing with the candlesticks, and then the sell orders were stacking up, so I kind of wanted to get out before they really drove the price down. But I am looking to get back in, possibly $22 range. 21.80 is ideal for me to get back in. That's kind of where I bought it at. I don't really want to buy it higher than what I previously bought it at. So we'll see if it hits a 21.80. If it doesn't, depending on the order book and where buyers are stacking up and where sellers are stacking up, I might raise it to 22, or I might end up canceling that and lowering it. And that's actually what I did earlier. Was I had an order to buy at 22, and the candles just did not look good from where they were opening up to the pre 21 was a 7 21.70. That to get it executed, and it got executed and actually up to that 22.50. Had for me to get it out. streams where I'm trading. You know, I definitely, you know, I want to tell everybody that traders are not making really trading anything.
Hey, don't say that one. Okay, find it. I'm gonna help you. Okay? Right there! Yeah. You did it. No. Wow. Okay. Good stuff.
Are you able to hear me at all? I know you're not able to see my screen. I know the video is not loading properly.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, that's perfect that you can hear me. I just don't think the video, I don't think is loading properly, even though it's showing my screen is sharing. But when I'm actually viewing the YouTube section, it just has the globe, and that's about it.
What can I do?
Yeah, it's slow. Let me see what else I can do. On the actual Google Hangout, it's showing everything as properly working. But then when I take a look at what you guys are looking at, it just has that globe and just it's basically buffering. Let me try something.
Hey, you're popping the bubble.
All right, I think you can see the screen now. Let me know if you can't. All right, perfect. And if the resolution is bad, the first video I did, somebody indicated that the resolution was pretty bad. Basically, what you have to do is just click on, basically right under the video, there's a little settings tab. If you click on that, then you can change the quality. Right now, my quality is set to 240, which is just horrendous. Everything's blurry. So if I change it to 720, very clear. All right, so yeah, that's a problem with Google. You know, it's going to have these hiccups. It's going to work great sometimes, and it actually worked great for the first 6 hours that I was doing this live stream earlier. And then I tried to load a platform that I use for trading stocks, and it basically kind of went berserks and didn't like me running the chart for Bitcoin and doing the Google live stream. So at least I know next time not to try to run all three things at once. But let's take a look at, let's see. Still waiting for Ethereum to kind of take a dip and try to get a good entry position. Let's zoom in a lot closer than the 1 hour chart. But yeah, I think, you know, what I'll do next time is I will try to send out some sort of notification, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before I do this live stream. This morning when I did it, it was just kind of a test just to see if it would actually even work. I didn't want to send out any notifications at all and waste somebody's time, and you know, Google Hangout wasn't going to work for me. All right, that is perfect. Now you can see everything.
What does it mean again? That's why I don't want it.
So any questions you'd have for me in regards to cryptocurrency? Like I said earlier, you know, I'm not the most knowledgeable person, but you know, I will do my best to answer some of those questions for you. If it's a technical aspect of, you know, the cryptocurrency and how it works, I might not have the exact answer for you. But in regards to trading, I can definitely answer those.
I don't like this side. Why? It's nice.
So are you currently trading now, or are you just investing? And if you are trading, what platform are you using?
Okay, fine. Thank you. What? It means you're going to second line for yours. Ew, who put this plate there? That means disgusting. My turn. Hey, I can't. What are you trying to do?
Well, I can definitely do to guide you in the right direction. And just some of the rules that I follow. Just also remember that every trader is different. What style of trading they do and how they execute some of their trades. So it all depends. You know, I don't like to consider myself an aggressive trader. I'll kind of sit back and wait for a good entry. Wait for I'll wait for the trade to come back to me. I'm not going to chase something that's already going up high. Nice, welcome, Dylan. Yeah, I guess the issue I had earlier took a little longer to resolve, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
So you bought some Dash coins. Hopefully you got another good price. And I think, with those two cryptocurrencies, Dash and Ethereum, you can't go wrong at all. I was just actually looking at Monero earlier, and I saw it at $12.40, and then basically with a blink of an eye, a couple hours later, it was at about $16.50. Welcome to the new viewers that have joined this channel. Currently, I'm looking at Ethereum, looking to see if there's a good entry for me. 2180 would be great. That's kind of what I got in earlier, and then I sold at 2250. So that's kind of where I'm looking to get back in. And this was right around this range. I got in. I dipped to 2179. I got in at 2180, and then of course it went up to almost $23.50. But I got out at 2250. All right, so we are seeing some selling pressure from that 2350 that it hit. So right now what I'm going to do is just take a look at the sellers and see where they might be stacked up. I mean, there's a lot of sellers looking to get out at 23. Right from the depth chart, I can kind of tell there. And that's that seller right there, about 893 coins for 23. Looking to unload.
It's just like the song that my dad teach me. Just one try. Here.
Yeah, Angel, we can definitely chat. That's not an issue at all. I do have a very busy, hectic life with 3 kids. They eat up a lot of my time, but we could definitely meet up on that private Zoom webinar that you have. I'd have to probably do a little research about the webinar and see, what you're able to do on it, if you're able to show any type of charts or graphs. Yeah, one thing I will highly recommend to anybody that's looking to really trade on a day-to-day basis is to not overtrade. Let those trades come to you, and the money that you have in there, be ready to lose it. And if you do lose it, it's not going to be the end of the world. So as long as you don't mind losing that money, then you'll be perfectly okay. Now, if you need that money to sustain your day-to-day living, I don't recommend trading at all. Use that money to pay your rent, buy your food, whatever it is that you need to do with it. Get out of debt. But if you have some money to spare, and if you lose it, it's not going to be the end of the world. Then it's not a bad thing to get into. But also, one thing I'll recommend, and I know there really isn't a cryptocurrency platform that allows you to do this. But with what I use for stock trading, I use TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim. They do allow you to paper trade, which is basically fake money. And I think they give you about $100,000 of fake money that you can use to trade. And you're basically looking at the exact same thing as a real trader would be looking at, in the sense of the charts, the graphs, the news that's out. And then you can kind of, get a better idea of the price action movement and be able to trade with paper money and not have to worry about losing your hard-earned money. And when I first started trading, well, first I was an investor. I would invest in some of the bigger companies, Apple, Netflix, things like that. And when I really started getting into trading, I didn't just trade with the money that I had. I was afraid of losing it. And there's only about 10% of the traders that actually make great money. And I would probably consider them to be rich and well off. So, I basically paper traded just to kind of have an idea of how things move and really the manipulation that goes on. So, if I lose that $100,000 in paper trading, I'm not going to go jump off a bridge as though it was real money. Yeah, I completely agree, man. It's, as a beginner, you really have to not trade with real money at all. I would recommend beginners to be an investor. And I get that question a lot from a lot of my friends that, they know what I do on a day-to-day basis, and they want to do what I do. but they're also not willing to put in the time to learn on how to be an efficient trader. And that's really what you have to learn. You have to really completely leave the emotions at the door. You can't trade with emotions at all. And that's when they end up losing money, is when they're trading with their emotions and they're chasing something that's just going up so high. And then, what goes up so high is only going to come down faster than it goes up. And they end up not really protecting themselves on the downward spiral when it's tanking. So, when I'm trading, I've had actually a buddy of mine kind of sit side by side with me with his laptop. He's trading, I'm trading, and I'm giving him some pointers. And I mean, he's jumping off the seat, jumping up and down, basically doing cartwheels because he was so excited. And I'm like, dude, you got to keep your emotions in check. And I'm sitting here just like I'm calm, not very emotional at all. Because really, I mean, you can love a stock so much, but it's not going to love you back. So I'm still waiting for that entry. I'm not going to chase it. I'm not going to buy it here. I'm still going to wait for that entry to come to me right around this support line of 2180. It'll probably get to like 2181. And then if it does come to me, that's a trade I'll take. And then on the upward, probably I'll be looking at the 2350 to get out. That's kind of where I see where the resistance is right there. But then the support is going to be here. And this is just on a 15-minute candlestick chart. So every candle here represents a 15-minute price movement. I mean, I can extend out and look at, a bigger overall picture. And of course, that was the dip on a 10th when the decision came out about the ETF, where it dropped to $17.01. So ever since then, I mean, it's been climbing up, nice and steady. And this is kind of, what I would like to see if I was a long-term investor. Just nice and steady, nothing too volatile, nothing jumping up like crazy. Like right here, I mean, that's a big candle. I was actually asleep because I was about 4 a.m., 3:30 in the morning, and I had actually sold what I bought at 1848. I sold at 2140. I'm sorry, I bought it at 1848 and sold at, yes, 2140 was the average price. And then jumped up to 24.25, came right back down to 22. When I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I saw that and I was like, I'll wait for a better entry. I'll wait for it to come down again to the 22 because it got right back up to about the 23.50. And welcome to anyone new that's joining this live stream. And please let me know if you're a trader or if you're an investor, what it is that you like to do with cryptocurrency, or if you're currently holding any cryptocurrency. Actually, I think this is the most viewers I've had all day. This morning when I was, I think, 7 a.m. when I launched it just to see if it would work. I basically sat here and kind of talked to myself. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate that. So looking at these order books, it looks like, oh, actually he dropped off. 2230 was a big buyer. It was about 1,500 in the books to be bought, but they took it off the books. So we'll see where that big support is going to be coming from. And usually what I'll do is I'll take a look at the big support. And let's just say hypothetically that support was at, like the other day when I bought Ethereum from Gemini, there was 16,000 and I think like 20,000 that were being bought. And I just went ahead and put my order in a penny over what they were buying it at, because I knew that they were that price point was going to be supported at a penny under from where I bought it, and it was, and actually drove the price up higher. And then if I was to sell, I would look at to see where the big sellers are sitting at and try to really undercut them and sell a penny or 2 pennies before they actually get out and cause the price to drive down. And I usually try to look for anything, anything over 1,000 would be a nice wall. So really no big sellers, 377, that's at $23.40. So at least I know that 23.40 is going to be a resistance, because a lot of people might try to undercut them and try to get out before that, unless somebody else steps in and increases the amount of ether to be sold at 23.38. 350 at 23.23. There's a somewhat okay support, 895 at 22.61. As long as there are sellers to support his buying at that price. But if there aren't any sellers, then yeah, he might have to up his price, or she. All right, I'm going to get out of this 1 hour candlestick, because really you can't trade on a 1 hour candlestick. Usually 15 minutes, a half an hour is a candlestick that I look for. Sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. I wouldn't even look at the 1 minute candlestick. We'll look at it briefly, but yeah, it doesn't really give me the overall picture of what it's been doing. It just shows a downtrend. Currently, right now, I am using, there's 3 platforms that I have. And I'm hoping you're talking about CryptoCurrency, because that's currently what we're doing here. I use Gemini, Coinbase, or GDAX, which is owned by Coinbase. And I just recently set up a Poloniex account, which I haven't really started using that at all yet. But I think I will transfer, some ether if I buy some today to that account, just so I'm able to buy some Dash or Monero. I think Dash is actually pretty high today, 75 bucks. I don't think I'd be buying it at that price, but if we get a violent drop to the $50 range, that would be a good entry point for me. Now, everybody has their own entry point and what they feel comfortable with buying, but anything under 50 bucks, I would personally feel comfortable with buying. And the reason why I use Gemini is I like their instant deposit. So when I actually make a deposit into Gemini, there's a limit of 500 per day that you can deposit. It's available instantly right away for me to use and trade. Now, I'm not able to withdraw it or transfer it to another exchange, but at least I could buy Ethereum or I can buy Bitcoin instantly right away. And they allow you $500 per day, up to a max of 15,000 per month. So I do use that to make transfers and buy instantly. Coinbase, unfortunately, has done a lot of people wrong in the sense of their deposits, holding their deposits. It held my deposit for almost 8 business days when, they should have only held it for 3 to 4. And that's kind of what they stated, your deposit will be available in about 3 to 4 business days, but it definitely wasn't. So what they started doing was they put in my smallest deposit. I made a $2,000 deposit, and then I also made a couple other smaller deposits, 200, 150. But they started putting through those small deposits first and held that $2,000 deposit for a lot longer. So I don't think I'll be depositing any money into Coinbase. What I'll probably do is just deposit into Gemini, buy something, and then look at the price action, where it's selling higher, and be able to transfer the Ether or the Bitcoin to an exchange that is selling higher. So Dylan, let's see, you had 7 Bitcoins at 250. That's pretty good. Sold it and didn't get back in until 850. Hopefully you sold it at 850 or at a higher price. Okay, so you sold the 250, you sold the 7 Bitcoins at 1,000. That's pretty good, dude. That is good. You know, I mean, we all could wish, you know, we stayed in, but like I always tell, you know, people that are interested in trading, it's always better to wish you were in than to wish you were out. So there's nothing wrong with wishing you were in. At least you protected those profits, because you really don't know what's going to happen. You know, we could have a violent crash. It could come down, and it did. It came down to about, you know, 734, 735, I think it was. And I mean, this was back a couple months ago. I'd have to look at the chart. Do I worry about losing coins on exchanges? You know, I do. I think we all should. We all should take, you know, the precautionary measures to kind of protect ourselves, and I think a lot of us do. But some exchanges might not even have those measures in place. So yeah, you know, it's always a risk you take, to be honest with you, unless you're in physical control of your Bitcoin, where you have them on a hard drive. It's a risk that we're all taking. You know, I think if anything is to get hacked, it would be Poloniex. I think Gemini and Coinbase have definitely the technology in place to, I'm not going to say 100% protect you, but to protect you a lot better than Poloniex would. I think Poloniex was hacked. I got to research it, but they were hacked not long ago. I don't think Coinbase has been hacked. Gemini hasn't been hacked. So I think those two platforms are definitely going to have the security measures in place to protect their customers. Yeah, we all worry. You know, that's why I think, you know, if you know, and I mean, Logan, I've seen you on some of the other YouTubers, you know, crypto, um, and I think a lot of them will emphasize that, you know, you shouldn't keep a lot on an exchange. You know, maybe only keep what you're afforded to lose, or keep what you're willing to just use to trade. Considering I was trading the 270 ether and then the 418 ether. I mean, I'm not going to transfer to an external wallet and then have to transfer it again and wait the 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on how long it takes, or have any type of connectivity issues. So considering I'm buying and selling, you know, I'm not going to put it on a hard drive. But if I was looking to hold long term, then yes, I would have definitely gotten those 400 ethers out of there, put them on an external drive, held onto it for several months, and then when I'm ready to sell, move it back out. But yeah, you should always protect yourself. Yeah, definitely look into Gemini. I think, you know, I did a brief video on it. I think UK uh, is a country that they service. So I know they don't, you know, they're not allowed to operate out of a lot of countries. But I think the UK, and I think I stated that in the video, the UK is one of the countries that they operate out of. Now, for a trader, it's horrible to use. I would not use Gemini to trade on a day-to-day basis. Their platform is not up to par. It's not where it needs to be for a trader. I think, you know, they're there mainly for a long-term investor. So if you're a long-term investor, you're just buying and keeping it there, that's fine. But for me being a trader, I like to actually be able to look at the charts and the graph. And that's why I use CryptoWatch or CryptoWatt.ch for my charting system. But yeah, Gemini is probably one of the best in the sense of instant deposit. And you could actually deposit a lot more, but you just have to wire the money into Gemini. Exodus IO, you know, somebody had mentioned that. I haven't looked into it yet. I think it was on, where did I hear about it? I think Omar, Crypto with an O, did a live stream yesterday or the other day, and I was on his live stream, and somebody asked that same question, and I don't think he got to that question. but I'll definitely have to look into it. I do like Jax. I think in the sense that they allow different cryptocurrencies on their wallet, so you don't have to have different private keys. And I do have a Jax wallet. I think they allow up to 9 different cryptocurrencies. Yeah, Gemini is recommended for UK trading. But I mean, I think in your situation, you're looking to hold long term. And if that's the case, then yeah, they're not bad. I mean, their fees are going to be a little high, 0.25%. And I don't think the volatility is there to cause a big drop. When I do a side-by-side comparison of the price of Bitcoin, because on CryptoWatt.ch, the charting system, I can actually look at the chart for Gemini, Bitcoin, as well as Coinbase. When Coinbase dropped to, it had a violent drop to 1,050 bucks. Gemini did not have that drop at all because the volatility is not there. So that's one good thing about being a long-term investor and using Gemini is it's not going to be as volatile as Coinbase. Yeah, if you're gonna, Logan, if you're gonna trade small amount, I mean, definitely look at Poloniex. And I did start that account. I just haven't transferred anything into them. But I mean, you can also look at Kraken. I've heard a lot of good things about them. I like their charting system is going to be excellent because they actually just bought out CryptoWatch. So CryptoWatch is part of Kraken now, and their buy orders, the way you can actually place trades, is a lot better than some of these other exchanges. Still waiting for that drop. Nothing is happening.
Yes.
2276 was a drop that we got. Not what I was looking for. What do I mean by better? Are you talking about in the sense of Gemini and Coinbase? So in the sense of Gemini, they allow instant deposits. So I basically link my bank account, and they have, I think, up to 7 different banks that you can do instant link. So it'll take you probably 2 seconds to link that bank account to Gemini. There's about 7 of the largest banks that they allow, and they allow you to transfer $500 on a day-to-day basis, excluding weekends. So, Monday through Friday, you can transfer $500 every single day. When you make that transfer, it's instantly available for you to trade within a matter of a second. In the sense of Coinbase or a lot of the other exchanges that allow you to deposit fiat currency, you got to wait the 3 to 4 business days. Now, 3 to 4 business days isn't accurate. It could take a lot longer. My one deposit took almost 8 business days. So, if you see the price dropping and you actually want to buy right there and then, and you don't have the fiat currency in your platform, that's where Gemini really comes in handy, because I can go in, transfer 500 for that day, be able to buy. And actually, one thing I learned about Gemini is if I deposit $500, and this is U.S. time, Eastern time zone, New York time zone, if I deposit $500 before 5 p.m., so I can do it at 4:50 p.m., and then at 5 p.m., which is only 10 minutes later, my limit starts again. So then I can deposit another 500 right at 5 p.m. which is really nice. So hypothetically, I can deposit $1,000 within a matter of 10 minutes and be able to use that $1,000 instantly to buy Bitcoin or to buy Ethereum. Yeah, but in the sense of trading, really the charting system is not that good. So you really have to use a different charting system to be able to trade. And there's not a lot of volatility that happens within Gemini. So if you look at the volume in Gemini versus other platforms, you're going to see that the volume is a lot less on Gemini, which is good, for long-term investors. But as a trader, I want to see that volatility. I want to see the sharp decline. I want to see, the sharp increase in the price, the rapid jump, the rapid drop. That's kind of what I look forward to, and that's kind of what I keep an eye on. And when I see those, I try to get a price executed. And then when I see that, increase, I'll try to get out. Yeah, and Logan, kind of going back to your question about recommendations for UK trading, I would look at Kraken and see if they do allow you to trade, or if they actually operate out of the UK, which I don't see why they wouldn't. I haven't set an account with them yet, but that's, if I'm to use a different platform, that's definitely a platform I would use. I'm going to do a little comparison between Gemini and Coinbase for BTC, and we'll look at the chart as long as it loads on your end. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of a lag between what you guys are seeing and what I'm able to see. Okay, I think it's switching over. All right, I think it's loaded on the screen you guys are looking at. But if we look at some of these long candle wicks, I mean, those are violent drops that happen. And on Coinbase.com, at one point it was right around 1,200. Let's see. It was 1221 here. And then the next candlestick, basically these are 6-hour candlesticks. It had a drop to 1,100, so a drop of 100 there. There was a big drop here from 1,200 to 1,885. there's a drop here from 1282 to 1050, and that was on the 7th. And then, of course, on the 10th, which we all know what happened there. So keep in mind, and we're going to switch the chart to Gemini, but yeah, definitely remember these drops here, because you will not see these drops on Gemini at all. And that's because just the volatility is not there. So that's why I like to put in, before I go to bed, I'll put in a low ball offer of, the one time I put it in for 1,000. Of course, it didn't hit, and that was right here, 1050. Now, if I would have put it at 1050, I would have probably had some filled. I don't think I would have probably had all of them filled. But it came down real fast, and then it went right back up. So that was on the 7th, and then the 28th. So the 28th and the 7th. Let's take a look at Gemini. I've had this channel, actually I started January 1st, and that was a recommendation from my brother, because he was always asking me about trading stocks and cryptocurrencies and things like that. And we'd watch a couple YouTube videos on people that trade stocks, and I would recommend who he should follow, because really I couldn't sit there and teach him. So I actually kind of showed him a couple of the videos, but then he kind of recommended, for me to do something, YouTube channel on stocks. And I said, well, there's just way too many people doing things on stocks. I don't want to have to sit there and kind of do the same thing they're doing. And then I looked at cryptocurrency, and I was like, there aren't too many people doing this. There are some, but not as many. So it was January 1st that I decided to set up the YouTube page. And, it was within a couple of weeks where I was just getting tons of subscribers, and I was a little overwhelmed, to be honest with you. I didn't really know what to expect from the YouTube channel and from me doing the videos, but I'm kind of glad I set it up and did it. And it kind of gives me an outlet. My wife is not into trading stocks, or, she's not into cryptocurrency, and she thinks I'm a little crazy talking about cryptocurrency, and, she doesn't want to hear any of that stuff. So I don't really have anybody else to talk to about cryptocurrency, or trading cryptocurrency. So it's a great outlet for me to kind of have somebody to talk to, and have you guys to talk to, and a community of about 200 subscribers now. So I'm honored, I'm thrilled that 200 people have decided to subscribe. So it's been about 2.5 months so far. All right, so looking at Gemini, and of course it was the 28th and the 8th. On the 28th, nothing. I mean, there was no violent, drop at all. The high was 1195, the low was 1185. And then on the 8th, when Coinbase dropped to 1050, the low was 1170 on Gemini, the high was 1245. So, for a long-term investor, it's not bad to use Gemini. But for me, looking, since considering I put that order in early in the morning before I go to bed, I look for those violent drops and then rise, and then I get out. Yeah, Logan, I think you were, one of my first subscribers when I set up the YouTube page. I forget when you actually subscribed. I'll have to go back and take a look. But I do remember having the conversation with you because I put out a video, and that was when the cup and handle was forming, I think, on or the handle part of the cup on Bitcoin, when it was actually dropping from hitting that 1175. And we had a very nice, very lengthy conversation about it going down to 600. I thought it was going to touch the 600. Oh man, I was actually talking the whole time and I was on mute. Dude, I am so sorry. Wow. I just seriously, I talked about how I started out in investing. And wow, that is crazy. Well, thanks for letting me know, Logan. I appreciate that, and I do apologize that I was on mute this whole time. But yeah, in regards to your question, Logan, you know, I only do one trade at a time. To be honest with you, I did two with Gemini. I did with Coinbase, bought Ethereum and Gemini, and then Bitcoin on Coinbase, and that was just way too much to kind of deal with. And so I'd rather deal with one platform. You know, I can be in Bitcoin, Ethereum on one platform, and it's perfectly fine. Dylan, kind of going back to your question because it was a long answer. But you know, how did I get into trading? And you know, with my daytime job, I actually, you know, you're right. I don't have a daytime job anymore. I quit the banking world 2 years ago, where I was basically in the wireless industry and banking for 11 years. And it just basically ate away at me. I was in sales where I was having nightmares about numbers and chasing numbers left and right. And, you know, when you're in sales, numbers are never good enough. You know, you could hit 120% of your goal, you know, but that's not good. You could actually do 150% is their philosophy and their motto. So I got tired of going to bed and having nightmares, chasing numbers, and trading stocks was something I did, you know, when I was actually a sophomore, I'm sorry, a junior in high school. So that was 1996, where I kind of worked a job, you know, part-time job after school. And then I took $1,000 check to some of the biggest investment firms in downtown Philadelphia. And I walked into about four of them, and they basically all started laughing at me, except for one. So, you know, I would go in and they would say, what are you here for? And I would say, you know, I got $1,000. I'm looking to invest it. And they would kind of laugh and say, well, you know, you need about $20,000 in capital in order to invest with us. And I would ask them, you know, where could I go? And they would say online. I mean, this is 1996 or 1995. You know, the internet was just starting out. You know, I didn't have a computer at home. You know, it was dial-up internet, you know, wherever you went. So I went to my fourth place, and I was Merrill Lynch. And the guy that I was talking to was just so taken back by how there was a 17-year-old kid coming in to invest and buy stocks and interested in stocks with $1,000 check. And he actually wanted to offer me an internship working for him. And he would teach me kind of the ins and out and the tricks of trading. I unfortunately took him down on that offer. I didn't accept that offer because it was a non-paid internship. And, you know, it was my junior year. I was going to be going away to college. You know, after a year, I needed to save money for school. So I kept on working my job and going to school. But he was willing to take that $1,000 and help me invest it. Now, he didn't tell me what to invest it in, and I wish that's something that he would have actually said, hey, you know what, these are some of the things you should look at. It's 1995, you know, technology is evolving, the internet is evolving, computers are evolving, you want to be in this type of sector. So if he would have said to me, hey, you know what, look at Apple. You know, back then, I mean, nobody really used Apple computer. In my high school, there were basically, you know, Windows computers, you know, for typing. So if you would have said to me, hey, you know what, put your money in Apple and just hold on to it, I would have probably made a lot of money with that $1,000. But I ended up putting that $1,000 into Nike because that's kind of what I wore. I see a lot of people wearing Nike, and Nike at that point was $100 per share. So bought 10 shares of Nike. And then I kept it in Merrill Lynch for a while. You know, the guy reached out to me, would talk to me periodically, especially when I went away to college, still offer me that internship. But, you know, of course I had to work and pay my way through school. So I kept my account there, and Nike, of course, would do, you know, every year and a half, every year they would do a 2-for-1 split. So my 10 shares turned into 20 shares. And then my 20 shares turned into 80 shares. And then my 80 shares turned into 160 shares. And then my junior year, actually the end of my senior year, I needed money. So I kind of pulled the money out and unfortunately spent it. I should have invested it, but you know, basically went on a trip, bought things I needed, but that helped out. And that's kind of what got me motivated into trading and just to be interested in owning a piece of a company. So that's how I got basically started in trading stocks. But yeah, that was a kind of a long answer. But I was trading stocks when I actually had my daytime job, and I think looking back at it, I'm like, man, did I really do that? I would buy 10 shares of Apple, and I think Apple at that point was like $300. So I'd buy 10 shares. A month and a half later, it'd go up $10. I made $300. I would sell it. I bought Netflix, when it dropped to 50 from 300, and I bought 10 shares, and I should have held on to that. It went up $30. I sold. But yeah, I think if I was a long-term investor in those type of stocks, I think I would have been a lot better and not really needing the money. I needed the money at that point, so I kind of pulled it out. But yeah, when I worked for a wireless industry, I would trade stocks. When I worked at the bank, I would trade stocks. So when I didn't have a client in front of me, I would open up my Scottrade account and buy some of the bigger companies and Microsofts that are out there. I never really invested in a lot of the pump and dumps. Now I do. I'll look at the chart movement. I'll see what's being pumped. I'll buy it. I'll buy 5,000, 10,000 shares. It'll go up 10 cents. It'll go up 20 cents, and I'm out. On my 5,000 shares times 10 cents, I just made $500. So that's kind of what I do. And it does go up. It ends up going up 30, 40 cents after that. It's like, I should have held on, but you just really don't know what's going to happen. It could go up 10, 20 cents, and then it could come back down 50, 60 cents. That's kind of the risk that we take. But yeah, long answer. But I'm going to put this on mute for probably about 10 minutes or so. But don't think I skipped out on you guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Yeah, Dylan, it's always good to be in the green. You know, as a trader, that's kind of what we look forward to, is to stay away from being in the red. And I think Ethereum is a very good trade. You know, Bitcoin is good too, but it's pretty high. So you're getting, you know, 3 to 5 Bitcoins that you can buy, at least that I can buy. But your money will go a long way in trading Ethereum. Dash would have been great. See, what is the price of Dash right now? Let's see if it hit 80 bucks. Almost 77. What answer are we referring to, Dylan?
This is my car.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to rewind it and listen to it. The first answer was actually a lot longer before I realized I was muted. Thanks, Logan, because I would have probably just kept talking and talking and talking. But yeah, it's definitely a passion that I have, something that I kind of just fell in love with, and something that I started doing as a hobby, not doing it thinking, you know, I'm going to get rich doing this. So that's currently how I got into it.
Yay, this is my credit card.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see me trade. Ethereum just does not seem like it wants to budge. On the previous video that's uploaded, that's really long. It's like 6 hours long. I don't know if I would sit through that and watch everything. If I was able to edit that video, you know, that would have been kind of good, because then I could have cut out a lot of the stuff that really is not necessary to have it on there. But at least there you were able to see me get into a trade and then kind of get out of a trade. No, I'm definitely not rich. Not yet. And I don't think I'll ever be rich, to be honest with you. Doing what I do. It's a great way for me to make a living, for me to be able to pay bills and take my kids on vacation. We went out to Florida. We go to Outer Banks just about every year. But I don't do it to try to be filthy rich. It'd be great if I bought something and then it just went parabolic and went crazy. I think if a lot of us would have bought Bitcoin back in early 2013 and then kind of just held on to it and didn't do anything with it, kind of like out of sight, out of mind, and then looked at it a year and a half, 2 years later, we would definitely be all rich. Dylan, quick question. What are you using as your trading platform?
What are you doing?
Yeah, Coinbase is not bad. The only thing I don't like about them is just their deposit. I think you've heard me say they like to hold people's deposit longer than they should. And I think there were a lot of people that had issues as well too with transferring Bitcoin out of Coinbase. But definitely take a look at Gemini, just so you have the ability to make a deposit and have it instantly available for trade, and then you can move those coins to really any exchange that you want. All right, I'm hoping we get some sort of movement here with Ethereum. It's just been trading sideways for the past 1 hour, almost 3 hours. I don't follow Tone Vase. I need to start subscribing to a lot of the other YouTubers that are out there. I'm actually only subscribed to Crypto, aka Omar, Adam Meister, Trevon James, And I think that's really it. I think Omar's got some really great things to say. I mean, that guy is very knowledgeable. And I mean, I really enjoy watching his videos and trying to log into his live stream as much as I can. That's good to know. I'll definitely have to start looking into that. Yeah, I've heard somebody else mention him in one of their videos. I just never really logged in and checked him out. But yeah, if you say he's the best, I'll definitely have to look into that.
Do you have any markets?
Yeah, being analytical is always good, especially if you're into charts. What do you guys think about? I don't know if you guys follow Trevon James. What do you guys think about his losing Bitcoin incident and the rant that he put on? Yeah, you're right. I mean, it does suck, but you're definitely right. You got to take care of your money, and you got to really be careful with what you're doing, especially when you're dealing with, almost $4,000 worth of Bitcoin. I actually almost made one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I didn't really share it on the video that I uploaded yesterday, but I was buying some Ethereum from Gemini. So what I wanted to do was put in a limit to buy. It was 303 Ethereum at $15.11. This is really the price I wanted to buy it at, because it was starting to drop. But I went ahead and said, I want to buy 15.11 Ethereum at a price of $303. And I hit submit, didn't really think about it. And of course, I got kids and I was kind of distracted. And I think that's kind of what happened with Trevon. And the order went through instantly right away. And I was kind of confused. I was like, the price didn't drop. Like, why was it executed? And then when I looked at the order, I was like, wow, I put in to buy 15 at $303. So I'm kind of glad that I only put in to buy the 15, and I didn't say I wanted to buy 100 at $303 for the Ethereum price, because then I would have had so many executed to get me to that 100. So I'm glad it was only 15 that were executed. Now, they weren't executed at $303 because there was really no seller at $303. It basically sold it, whoever was selling at the highest price, that's what it was sold at. So I got 15.11 Ethereum at $16.79 because that was the highest seller. And I wish I would have kept those, but I actually ended up selling them. It went up to like 18 bucks and I sold it. It was only 15 of them. But, I'm glad I didn't have a lot of money in there and say, you know what, I want to buy 300 at a price of 300, because then that would have I would end up probably buying at a higher price than I wanted to. But at that point, it was kind of low. Yeah, I think, we've all made mistakes in buying and selling things. And, you don't mean to sell it at a certain price, or you don't mean to buy it at a certain price, but it's just, you're so excited to try to put an order in before the big dip that you end up, typing in wrong numbers. So I'm assuming you actually ended up selling at a lower price than you wanted to, or what ended up happening with that? Actually, you're right, Dylan. I made a mistake. It didn't buy it at the highest price, so meaning the highest seller. It bought it at basically the closest seller, basically the lowest. Yeah, the lowest up. Yeah, I'm sure if you were selling something at a lower price than its actual price point, it would get bought up very quickly. Like right now, if I make a mistake and I buy Ethereum and then I go to try to sell it, at the current price is 23.03, and I would try to sell it at 21. Yeah, it would get bought up quick because it would execute all these top orders right up here until they were all gone. Yeah, I think you're right, Dylan. We all learn from our mistakes, and you just kind of learn not to do it again. I think sometimes we all learn the hard way instead of the easy way. But yeah, a lot of these mistakes that we make, it's self-inflicted. It's something that we can control by just really paying attention to what we're doing. But we kind of get caught up in the moment, and it only takes really 1 second. Hit submit, and then you realize, oh, why did I do that? Bitcoin is down 1.3%. Let's take a look. You mean your trade that trade you made made a big candle wick. I'm sure it did. People were probably like, what is this guy doing? Why did he have price? Usually when I'm trading stocks and I see, the price will be, $2. And somebody will go in and put an order in for 190. And I'm like, the price is $2. What are you doing? Why do you put an order for 190?
Do you know what this credit card is for? It says 45 cents. I want some, Mommy. What's that? Is it hot? My finger. I don't need my makeup. I got it. Take that for me, okay? Okay. No, wait here. Okay? And I fall down. And but don't smack my butt. So, okay? You do it to me. No, don't do it. Okay? No! Hey, you just started. Ready?
Yeah, there seems to be a big wall right at 1250. But somebody wants to unload.
Ew! Ew! Can I smell your butt? Tommy! Mommy, I don't have money. I don't need anything.
I'm kind of glad there's only 3 watchers. I don't know if you guys were hearing what my kids were saying in the background.
Don't do it. What other chips? I like these ones. Here, Jaden, get some chips.
Yeah, I think on March 15th it could have some sort of impact due to that debt ceiling, but I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact compared to the ETF being denied. I think that was a much bigger impact because you got to think about the anticipation building up to it and just how far Bitcoin has moved up. I mean, it really moved up to $1,360. So that's a huge increase. So it will have some sort of impact. I just don't think it's going to be massive.
Yeah, I ate them. Don't you see it? I love them. But I like the spicy ones.
Come on, Ethereum. Got to make a move here. I don't mind it going up, even though if I'm not in it, but it's got to do something. If it goes up, there's people going to be selling, and then it's going to come back down, and that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, sometimes we all heard worse, but yeah, what my daughter said to my son, I don't know if you guys heard that. Well, yeah, Logan, if you didn't hear it, that's a good thing. I'll share it with you guys though. My son farted, and my 4-year-old daughter asked if she could smell his fart.
Are you done?
Mommy, I'm gonna put this on here. Right, don't let quick match.
Yeah, the debt ceiling will definitely go up. I don't think the debt ceiling is ever going to go down. You know, the U.S. can't really afford to pay the principal. You know, they can only afford to pay the interest, and China has a lot of the debt. So, you know, we're just paying the interest. You're really not getting ahead. But I think that the main question is, how much is that debt ceiling going to go up with Trump in office? All right, guys, I hate to cut this. I don't mind leaving the chat room or the live chat up, the live feed up, but I don't think you guys want to sit there and just watch my chart. If you do, I'll leave it up. Let me know. But I gotta start making dinner for the kids. Yeah, Dylan, I'll definitely catch you next time. This is something I'm going to do on a day-to-day basis. But like I said, I'm going to advertise this a little better and kind of send out notifications. This is just kind of a trial period just to see, you know, how this live stream is going to go. And, you know, I was excited to have 7 viewers. Like I said earlier, I was just kind of talking to myself. So I'm glad you guys joined me. You know, we get to interact instead of just watching the videos. So definitely thank you for joining me. All right, guys, definitely enjoy your night, Logan, especially you, because it's probably getting dark in London. Dylan, thanks for joining. I appreciate you guys being interactive in the chat. But I'll definitely do this tomorrow. Try to get on. I'm thinking somewhere around 11, 11:30, when the stock market tends to slow down right around that time. So if you guys are around, definitely we'll chat then. But thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm hoping I get more viewers too. Like I said, I really didn't advertise this at all. I don't even know if any notifications went out, considering I didn't say, notify. But I'm gonna put something out on Twitter, just to let some of the followers know that I'm gonna be live streaming. And I think if I do this on a regular basis, then people can expect me to live stream. Cheers, brother. Have a great night. All right, I'm ending this now. Thank you, guys.